Okay, it's Sunday night, 7:23. Just wanted to do a quick video here to wrap up week 2 and to introduce week 3 just quickly. And so, let's see, in week 2, we were talking about people's experiences with grant writing and also some of the cost of applying for grants and getting for grants. And so in the first discussion forum, we talked about your experiences, and what came out of the comments was that, yes, the research tools and databases that were contained in Hall's Chapter 2 were really useful in terms of helping people understand what tools are out there to find out about grants, but that the key to actually effectively finding the grant that works for you in a timely manner is networking. Many of you talked about joining nonprofit membership groups, particularly those that are that serve nonprofits in the subject area that your nonprofit works in, and it's through working with that membership organization. You learn about the grants that are available. You get to know the network of people who apply for grants, and in many cases, that membership organization will bring the grantors in to meet with the members, so that you get to know the people also who are making the decisions about the grants. Okay, so this notion of networking and kind of being in the know, in the loop, is really amazingly useful when it comes to finding out about grants and then thinking about how best to apply, make your grant proposal stand out among the others. Okay, the second discussion forum question talked about the cost of getting grants, and this goes back to the week 1 discussion about there is no such thing as a free lunch. And so the way you really judge the cost of receiving a grant and the conditionality of various grants is really the match or the fit between the requirements of the grant and the capacities and the interest or mission of your organization. And I've tried to go back into Chapter 2 and find the one sentence quote, but I couldn't. But the key idea here is that when you think about the conditionality of grants, yes, that has to do with your ability to actually apply and make a strong application. But more importantly, you need to think about what the implications are of those conditions on the functioning of your organization. Because the other thing that you've heard in some of the discussions, right, is the time, effort, the work it takes sometimes to meet all the requirements of grants, particularly the reporting requirements. So you want to make sure that your organization has the capacity to actually meet all the requirements, even if it's in terms of you need the money, the topic's right on target, but it may be that the scale, as I think it was Kyra, Kyra, mentioned in her post, this notion of scale and the scale of what the grantor is requesting and the scale of the capacities of your organization, they really have to be comparable, or else you'll end up getting a big good grant, but then not being able to fulfill its requirements. Okay, all right, so that's enough for week 2. Week 3 we will be reading chapter 5 in the text. It's called the Grant Proposal Narrative, and I'm just going to read a couple of quick sentences. The subject of this chapter is the proposal narrative, your opportunity to describe your proposed program and convince the funding source to which you are applying that your program is deserving of its investment. And so what's key here then is to that last part, convincing the funding source to which you are applying that your program is deserving of its investment. Right? So when you write these grant narratives, you really have to remember to write to your audience. And who is your audience? Your audience is the person who you want to give you money. So you have to think about their interest and their purposes for writing the grant. And then that relates then to the second quote I wanted to read, which is on page 151. It's the second full paragraph. And it says, once the funder has answered its first question, whether there is a genuine problem that fits its interest, it will ask other important questions. Who will benefit from the program? Why is our money necessary or essential for this program? Is the proposed program a reasonable solution to the problem, or is it the best solution to the problem? And of course, does this organization have the skill and will to implement the proposed program? Each of these questions deserves some thoughts or attention before you begin writing the proposal narrative. And Hall goes on then with an extended discussion, actually discussing each of those key questions. But the point here is that you need to write the narrative with the interest and perspective of the grantor in mind, right? Again, I've made the analogy, and I'll probably do it further in this course, several times more in this course as well, that getting a grant is really kind of similar to the job searching process, that the employer has something that you want that only the employee can give you, a job. The grantor has something that you want that the grantor is the only one who can give it to you, the grant. And so you have to put yourself in the grantor's seat and figure out what it is that they're trying to accomplish by hiring you when you're going for a job, and what the grantor is trying to accomplish by giving out the grant when you go for a grant. I guess there are three other quick points. One, and Hall talks about this in the chapter, that your narrative has to be logically coherent. And so there's that discussion that Hall has about program theory and just the logical sequence then of problem, cause, solution, etc. that is akin to program theory. Okay. The second point I just wanted to make is that in unstructured grant proposals, these are typically, or more typically, given out by foundations, and it's in the case of unstructured grant solicitations, that relationships becomes all the more important. And so when you're working with foundations, the notion of trying to get to know them, have them get to know you, so that a professional relationship is developed, so that they can trust you, they know your reputation for quality work, your reputation for following through on your word, and hopefully in a repeated process, they know from experience that you produce a great product at the end when they fund you. So that's really important in the unstructured proposal, in the instance where you're responding to an unstructured request for proposal. The other one I just wanted to highlight is on page 194, and this has to do with structured proposals. And it's funny sometimes that people who work with foundations don't always appreciate that structured proposals really have points, a point system, typically, tied to the evaluation of the grant. I just wanted to read here, this is on page 194, sorry. I guess it's the third full paragraph toward the bottom. It says, The technique is thus not to write the proposal from scratch and then try to make it fit the RFP. That strategy is painfully difficult and prone to failure. Rather, the approach is to respond to the scoring factors provided, tailoring your response to include the information and only the information the funding agency will use to determine the score for your proposal. So just the point there is that appreciate that most structured proposals have a point system associated with them that will be used to evaluate your proposal. So make sure that if there's specific points asked for in the proposal, that you answer them completely concisely, then move on, because there'll be a point value associated with each of those requested sections of your proposal, and if you don't do it, you get a goose egg, you'll end up scoring low. Okay? Alright, that's enough for now. Sorry, I see it's 11 minutes. Hope this is helpful. See you online. Okay, bye-bye.